Hey, I'm Christopher Parham. You may know me as Ice Cube 57 on my Hemisphere forum, and I'm here to do like a small little preliminary review of the Ebike deal frame, which is right here behind me. It's called the City Tracker Pro frame, and it's designed by Max Cogan. He's a e-bike vendor up in Canada, and he's been doing things on Hemisphere for quite some time, organizing group buys, selling motors, controllers, headway cells, you name it. He's pretty much done a little bit of it in the e-bike field. So he's designed this frame a few years ago, and um, he threw some feelers out there to see if there was any interest. Um, and the response was kind of mixed, but he decided to pursue his um, his dream and went ahead and made the frame. So he's been sitting on the frame a little while, and so basically there's a little bit of R&D going on, with the frame. He's built dozens of bikes with this frame, and but as far as bringing it to market, there's still a little bit of R&D to kind of come together with a system that sort of do it yourself, put it together yourself type system where you can have a nice, really e-bike platform, with tons of battery space, um, torque arms built in. You still have all the standard mounts for disc brakes and everything, and just having high-end, high-quality component bike instead of going to the major vendors like Giant or Specialized or any of the other vendors and getting the frame and adapting it for an e-bike. Here is a platform that's designed with e-bikes already in mind, and it already automatically covers a lot of the key points that we look for whenever we design a bike. I'm just go over a few things. Like I said, it's here behind me. Uh, One thing is it has a 100 millimeter wide bottom bracket. If you get the component kit, there's a FSA bottom bracket that comes in the kit, and it's a ISIS crank set. So it's like it's a high end crank set, a high end bottom bracket. So there's normally you will see the regular square taper cranks, but this isn't the case. And the actual cranks for this bike, they're rather short. Don't have the millimeter value for them, but they're kind of short. But the good thing about the crank is it has a chain ring that has 130 BCD, so you can change that out if you want to. So I think there's a 46 tooth that comes stock with it. Um, and due to I haven't assembled the bike completely, but due to the size of the chain ring, it looks like you can go a little bit bigger, but if you go too much bigger, you run a risk of hitting the battery compartment right here. Like I said, there's the bottom bracket right there, and then the battery compartment is right here. So the chain ring may come in contact with the battery casing, so you might actually be stuck with a 46 tooth. But then again, on an e-bike platform, how much are you really pedaling? And so there's things that you look for on an e-bike platform, like battery space, and you see there's a huge space in the triangle. Um, there's a battery box also back there too that fits inside the triangle. The bike has been designed with a tray that's a flat surface that the battery tray can sit on, so the battery is pretty fully supported, pretty sturdy. There's straps that come across the battery box, and they're locked in by M8 metric bolts on both sides. If you get the regular box should fit in the frame, no issue. He has a larger box. So don't get me wrong, I think the regular box is 4.5 inches, and this box, the next size up, is 5.25. And this is, and he has these two sizes because this bike was designed to have headway cells, go in the battery compartment. So he was doing that to accommodate that, and also he's a heavyweight vendor. So he's selling a platform that suits his business, and so that's another thing to look at. He's selling this bike and the components and the motors and everything because they all go together as a kit. If you do try to come in with um, your own motor, you're going to come into some issues. There's an issue with certain key alignments on the frame. But the thing is, if you have a Crystalite motor, one that he sells, you won't have any issues with this frame. Everything should line up correctly. The problem that I encountered is I have the MXUS 3000 watt motor, and I went to throw it in the dropouts, and it was aligned way far to the left. So it's sort of like there's a dishing issue with certain motors, and this, like I said, by no means this is a drop-in solution. This isn't like one of those one-size-fit-all frames where you can throw anything on it. It was designed with the Crystalite motors in mind. With any bike that you have, you're going to have a little bit of an offset. In my case, mine was extreme, but if you use his motors and use the right shims and everything with it, it should line straight up with the seat post. And if it is off, it's only off by like a few millimeters. It's within that normal tolerance acceptance range. So keep that in mind. If you weren't interested in this frame, stick with Crystalite motors. That's something that he would support. He has dozens of frames that uses the Crystalite motor, and he's tested it with the Crystalite motor. I talked to some of the customers, and they seem to enjoy the frame and everything. I'm still in development stage. Basically, I wanted to use this frame as a long-range commuter frame. So, and it's not even necessarily a commuter frame. I just like long-range builds. I like having a huge battery pack. I have the multi-stars back here. Behind me, I have roughly probably close to about 4.5 kilowatt hours of battery, and they do fit in the frame. You have to be creative with it. The battery box won't hold it per se. I'm using 16 amp hour multi-star batteries. The box that comes with the frame won't hold it, but if you do decide to use the frames, you're going to have to take that bar and put some washers in between to space the bar out some, and the pack should fit 2 wide and 6 will fit on that little platform. You may have to develop a little aluminum box or aluminum tray to hold the batteries, but it can hold up to 4.5 kilowatts of battery if you so choose to use it. It does have mounts for a rear rack. It has not the chain stays, but the seat stays. There's mounts for a disc brake, not disc brakes, but there's mounts for a rack, and then you will use the disc brakes attachments on the rear. He does sell a rack that's pretty beefy, and he markets the rack as a mounting location for the controller, because if you mount the controller under the rack, you can get that airflow to keep the controller cool. As far as cable routing, there's several different points on the frame where you can slide your cables in, so they're nice and tidy like a regular bike. The brakes that come with the bike are mechanical disc brakes. They're like a BB7 knockoff or unbranded BB7, and he sends the kit with 180 millimeter rotors. One thing that you have to kind of keep in mind with the kit, you may need a disc brake adapter. A disc brake adapter to accommodate that larger rotor. The fork should be able to handle. The fork should have all the hardware, and the brake should have all the hardware for the front fork. But for the rear, you may need a 200 millimeter adapter to accommodate that 180 rotor that comes with the kit. And again, he's going down the list and looking at all the little things and all the little knickknacks to include with the kit to make sure you have a smooth a smooth build. So like disc brake shims, he's acquiring those. Um, Washers to space the axle, he's acquiring those. Go ahead and get the 24-inch wheel. 24-inch wheel will be, it'll look a lot better on the frame, and it'll perform a lot better. When I tried to put my 26-inch wheel on there, like I said, the frame geometry was throwing a lot of things off, but with a 24, it did get back in alignment, and then it did look like a normal bike versus me with a 26-inch wheels and running big apples. So like these large tires and this large diameter wheel was just throwing things off. As far as tire sizes, it looks like it could accommodate up to a 3-inch tire. That's what he's shipping it with, 24-inch tires with 3-inch outer diameter. So it's not a fat bike, but you're going to have a cushy ride. And I think the tires are pretty like almost like scooter grade tires. And you know, he does have the matching inner tubes for the front for the wheels and the tire, so you don't have to worry about anything. The rims that he has, like especially the front wheel rim for the 24-inch wheel, it's a very very beefy wheel, very very wide rim. So it's like he didn't skimp on the rim and stuff. So very very solid components. Even going back to the components that actually make up the back of the bike, you have Shimano derailleurs. Like I said, you have the FSA. Bottom bracket has FSA stems. The fork is a Suntour fork, is one of their higher end forks that has air suspension, has rebound control, has lockout and everything. He's selling that fork for about $300 if you buy everything inclusive with the kit. There was the e-brake levers. The e-brake levers look pretty nice quality compared to other e-brakes that I've seen from other vendors. I just ordered some from Lynn, and I wish I hadn't because those things look horrible. But the ones in this kit look absolutely great. They have some two-tone. It's like they're shiny metal, but they also have like plastic or some type of rubberized grip on them, and of course it has the switch in it. And so that, you know, it had a good quality e-brake when it came to that. Let's see, what else am I forgetting? It has a beefy seat tube. Like I said, I'm a big guy, so the seat tube that's on it is 30 millimeters plus. So it's really, really sturdy. You don't have to worry about bending or breaking that. The seat on it is just a average run-of-the-mill, non-branded seat. It's okay, but you know, I preferably probably would like something a little bit bigger, you know, due to my weight. The head tube where uh, the fork goes in, it's extra long. So if you do try to source that yourself, you gotta have to get one that has an extra long tube because it does have some extra millimeters, some extra length to it, to where if you buy certain forks, it might not actually fit all the way through. So one of the things that Max has going for him is he does have pretty much 90 to 95% of the components to where you don't have to search for anything. You know, even though the pedals look pretty beefy, you know, they have the cast pedals with not necessarily spikes on them, but it looks like it has like some raised ridges where it looks like it'll lock into your shoes. Of course, it has the reflector on it, and they're cast. They seem like they're cast aluminum, so they're not the press stout pedals. These are like they're actually casted in some pretty good metal, some type of aluminum, but they have some substance to them. Trying to think if there is anything else. So I covered the frame. The frame is actually really, really super light. It kind of reminds me of the Tidal Force frame, you know, from Wavecrest. That frame, that whole bike was super light. And so picking up this frame, especially when they delivered it, I was expecting it to be heavier. But it's very, very light. But of course, after I put 50 pounds worth of batteries on them, it's not going to be light. This build was probably going to exceed 100 pounds, you know, rolling weight, and the frame can take every bit of that. Now going to talk about the dropouts a little bit. The dropouts, when I slid the motor when I slid my motor in there, the dropouts were really, really tight. They didn't have any wiggle room. Um, I thought they would be metal drop. I mean, I thought they would be steel dropouts, but they're aluminum. They're 16 millimeters thickness. It looks really, really beefy. Now, I had a Tidal Force that has some thick dropouts, and the Tidal Force has a built-in torque arm, but this frame is relying on the extra thickness of the dropout to kind of resist spinning in the axle. And when I put, even though it's extra thick, when I put my motor in there, I had enough axle threads and everything to engage some extra washers and even thread on the nut all the way, so the nut was fully engaged. So it shouldn't have any. Like I said again, this bike was made with Crystalite motors in mind. Um, this I was also kind of made to run. It runs large motors, has 150 millimeter dropout. But again, it's all about how that axle spacing is and where the shoulders and stuff line up. I did install it in the frame with a 7-speed freewheel, and it looked like like I said, it was over to the extreme left. If I take the freewheel off, it helped it out a lot. But it's the thing that was hindering me was my axle shoulders. Um, if it was like if the motor was made to accept a single speed freewheel, then I believe the motor would have lined up in the frame perfectly. Um, let's see. I can't really think of anything much else that I want to talk about. Oh, let's talk about this battery box. The battery box is behind me. It has the little pink thing in it, and I got the extra wide battery box. Now, if the outside dimensions are 5.25 wide, but the internal dimensions aren't that. So whenever I size my battery pack, I size it based on the external dimensions, but of course, it didn't fit. So um, I was able to line up 6 straight up, and then you can fit 2 more multi-stars kind of laying on top of those packs. Um, But in the end, I really didn't want to stack any packs on top of each other. Like I said, the packs will already be on their ends like this, and then stacking a pack on top. They're thinking they had to be caddy corded too because of the weird shape of the battery box. Um, I really didn't like it, but what it did amount to, I mean, I'm assuming I could put some foam padding in there to kind of dampen and cushion everything. So you can fit. At least with the 16 amp hour multi-star, you can fit 100 volts and 32 amp hours in the frame. Um, if you drop that down to 10 amp hour batteries, you can fit 2 wide all the way up. So I know you can have a row of 12 sticking straight up. So that means 6 on one side, 6 on the other for a total of 12 packs sitting straight up. And then you have the space that's on top to where you can put an additional 4 packs. Of course, there'll be 2 sets and 2 wide, but that's a lot of weight. And it comes to a point where it's like, do you really want the extra weight? Do you really want just the battery to be in the frame and not rattling around or somewhere where it's throwing the bike handling off? Um, Ultimately, for me, I really wanted a light frame, and the battery area was a bonus, but again, I don't think I would fully utilize it except for in extreme case scenarios. I know there are some long range things that I want to do, but it'll be later on this spring or summer if I continue to use this frame. I did get the additive bag, and unfortunately, like it seems like the additive bag can only fit 2 of the multi-star 16 amp hours on each side. But luckily I did the testing to where it looks like it can run in 1P and deliver 60 amps. So that can be my short range pack for 20, 30 miles, just getting it around. And then whenever I want to do full range and carry my full 48, I was planning on doing 100 volts, 48 amp hours. If I do plan to do that on that bike, it'll be the additive bag plus whatever's in the frame, or it may all be in the frame. It really depends. You don't have to use the battery box. Those that I shared the picture with, I was able to stack the way that you see those multi-stars stacked up in the background. It's the same way I had them in the frame, and it just looks like if I just had like a thin aluminum box just to hold the batteries, that it looks like it would just, you know, cradle it just fine. So the multi-stars did introduce us to a lighter battery with more capacity, but it definitely allows us to carry a lot more range with us now. And like I said, that's all I was about. I wanted 50 miles an hour for 50 miles, or 250 miles at 20 miles an hour. And that's what I was going for on this build. And this build was supposed to be called Destination Discovery. I was supposed to be using the MX-US 3000 watt motor. I was going to pair it with a LAN controller, a LAN 18 FET 65 amp 4110 controller. I was going to run 100 volts, 48 amp hours, and it was supposed to be a close to a 50 mile per hour build. But like I said, the frame threw some loops at me, and it's restricting. I had bought everything to buy. I mean, I bought everything to put this together, and so pretty much like half of it has to, you know, go away. So I do have a motor for sale. I might have some batteries for sale. Some of those multi-stars may be up for sale. I'm switching over to a 4065 because it has 135 millimeter dropouts where it's meant to fit in standard frames and align up appropriately. So it should work like a dream in this frame. It's already been tested with this frame, so it should work in this frame or any other frame that I decide to drop it into. But if you're trying to use this frame and you really want to use like your own motor, I don't know what it may be, but I know it should be okay for Crystalite. But other motors, Max can't really support you. Um, and as like I said, this is a do-it-yourself hobby, so there's a lot of things that fall on you um, to make it work. And like I said, for me, it really wasn't easy. That's one of the things of being an early adopter. I was really gung-ho about this frame, um, put everything into it. You know, I pretty much had all the parts and everything here, and I really can't use my motor with it. It's like either I have to dish my motor or go to a smaller wheel size. It was a real headache. Um, but Max, he helped me out and taught me through a lot of things. And overall, you know, my first impressions of it were this was a total sack of crap, you know. But the more and more, like I said, Max was talking, and it's like we're giving each other feedback. I'm kind of reviewing things, um, sending it to him, and he's refining things. So I'm thinking, you know, by spring or summer, he should have a total kit to where if you buy pretty much most of the stuff, if not all the stuff from him, you should be able to drop everything and have a very, very good working e-bike. But if you are using something else, then you just gonna it's up to you to make it work, because it's gonna be a headache, and you're gonna feel discouraged. I was discouraged, but it looks like I might be breathing a new life into it since I'm switching over to a Crystalite motor. So I'm eager to see where this build goes. Other than that, that's my review for now. Thanks for watching.